Going to be a very hard few days for the parents of Aishwarya.
Gruelling. 8 days in a public court listening to strangers talk about what happened in their little girl's final moments. We've already had 2 inquiries into what happened that night in April when Aishwarya Aswath went into Perth Children's Hospital but didn't come out. So you could be forgiven for asking why we need a coronial inquest on top of those investigations.
Well, it's because we still don't know what really happened.
No, probably because the first 2 were at the behest of government. We were told they were independent, but you can still massage the verdict through the terms of reference. You restrict what your independent inquirer can independently inquire into and therefore restrict what they can independently report on. You can't restrict what comes out of an inquest. And because it's a court, proceedings are covered by privilege, so witnesses can say anything without fear of legal retribution. This is going to be an unvarnished and unspun analysis of what went wrong that evening. As Western Australia's state coroner, Ros Fogliani is the Elliot Ness of the West Australian Government. Untouchable. She's been doing the job for 8 years now and is beholden to nobody. She hit the headlines 2 years into her job when she got to the bottom of what happened to Ms. Dew. That's the Aboriginal woman who died in police custody. The Aishwarya case is being heard by one of Ros's lieutenants, Sarah Linton. Sarah's power as the coroner overseeing a death lies in her ability to call anyone to testify before her. So anyone from a hospital orderly who was working on the evening when the 7-year-old and her parents walked into PCH, all the way to the health ministers and premier can be marched into the witness box. Most of the time, the coroner's court is looking into so-called reportable deaths. These are deaths of prisoners, children in state care, that kind of thing. If someone's cause of death can't be explained, the coroner will investigate. We saw that with Chris Mainwaring. Police will occasionally refer a case if they have run out of leads in a murder investigation. The disappearance of Yvette Mitchell is one of those. And families can ask the coroner to investigate the circumstance of someone's death if they have suspicions all was not right. You remember Diane Brimble?
Yeah. Well, what do you think will come out of this inquest?
It will be a minute-by-minute examination of who did what and, importantly, who told who what to do or didn't tell them what to do. The coroner will likely make a list of recommendations to avoid those circumstances happening again. There's nothing to force the government to implement those recommendations, but public pressure is sometimes enough. The death of Ms. Dew showed that even police commissioners will sit up and take notice if the coroner puts the spotlight on them and their agency.
Well, the police commissioner is in the spotlight at the moment.
Cole Blanche is steaming mad at the 50 cops who refused to get vaccinated during COVID, and he's not going to let them off easy. He's thinking about a drastic course of action. This in the wake of anti-mandate pin-up boy Ben Falconer this week losing his 9-month dispute over the vaccine mandate in place for police. Justice Jeremy Allinson delivered his verdict in the typically understated language of the judiciary, saying, "I am not satisfied that the applicant has established the factual basis for his contentions," which is the equivalent of you and I saying,
"Doesn't add up."
I suspect that Cole is worried that letting such insubordination go unpunished will be a bad look and might make cops think twice before following other orders they believe might be bad for their health.
Of which there are many.
As we've just seen. If Blanche does sack the cops who dodged the needle, then Constable Falconer has a big problem. He'll be losing his job just as the bill arrives for the court costs he'll have to pay.
Something he probably didn't consider when he picked the fight.
And you've got to size up your enemy before you pick a battle.
And now you're talking about the Oswals.
They've been out of WA for 10 years and are still capable of making headlines. Radhika and Pankaj Oswal were our Kardashians in the early noughties. They blew into Boomtown with their millions of dollars, lectures about the virtues of being vegetarian, and the promise of an enormous fertiliser plant in the Pilbara. And then they disappeared faster than Kaiser Soze and the usual suspects.
He's gone.
Leaving future generations of West Australians cryptic archaeological clues as to their existence.
There's a blast from the past.
One of their business partners is getting a blast all the way from Dubai, which is where the Oswals now live. Ramesh Sodom worked for the Oswals between 2011 and 2019. The Oswals have claimed in the WA Supreme Court that Ramesh did the dirty on them after they shut down a bauxite mine their company owned in Guinea. It's being fought out in WA because Ramesh used to live in Netherlands. The Oswals are claiming that their former trusted wingman used information he gained as an employee to go back and quietly reopen the mine without telling them, and sending 2 shipments of bauxite to market for a profit of $1.04 million, which wouldn't have bought one chandelier at the Taj on Swan. I'm Ben Harvey. For more update, click the subscribe button below.